A simple question. Why pay good money for bread that is mouldy? Or, what's the point of taking a bus that won't stay on its route? Or, why return to a restaurant where the owner is abusive and the menu is a lie? Now, these are the sort of questions that could be asked about any product or services that we purchase daily in good faith. These people are being paid to provide a product or a service, and if they don't give us decent value, then we have every right to go elsewhere. Because only a fool continues to pay for goods or services that are substandard, right? And only a bigger fool allows others to continue to repeatedly abuse them time after time, right? The problem with our justice system, however, is that there is no alternative and nowhere else to go. There are approximately 160 sitting judges at any given time in Ireland, and another 26 county registrars. We have had occasion to come before at least 50 of them in the past 7 years, mostly as a lay litigant advancing our own cases, and sometimes as an observer with Integrity Ireland. At first, just like everyone else, we were awestruck and intimidated by the imposing surroundings, by servile solicitors and smart-looking barristers, and by sombre judges and registrars making complicated legal pronouncements which everyone bar us seemed to understand. Often, Gardaí were present in numbers, sometimes in riot gear, ready to pounce on the public at the slightest nod or gesture from the judge. It was all designed to impress and intimidate, and to a certain extent it worked, because at first we had no idea what was really going on. Just like everyone else who is not embedded in the system, we actually thought that our Gardaí, our registrars and our judges were obliged to follow some rules, right? After all, it is clearly stated in our Constitution that all citizens are equal under the law. And even our esteemed Minister for Justice and the Supreme Court's Chief Justice has conceded that even our highest-ranking judges are themselves, supposedly, subject to the Constitution and the law. This is what the government has to say. Equality before the law. All citizens in Ireland shall be held equal before the law. This means that the state cannot unjustly, unreasonably or arbitrarily discriminate between citizens. You cannot be treated as inferior or superior to any other person in society simply because of your human attributes or your ethical, racial, social or religious background. The right to fair procedures. The courts and all other bodies or persons making decisions that affect you must treat you fairly. There are two essential rules of fair procedure. Number one, the person making the decision that affects you should not be biased or even appear to be biased. Number two, you must be given an adequate opportunity to present your case. You must be informed of the matter, and you must be given a chance to comment on the material put forward by the other side. So, to put it plainly, we all have a right to fair and equal treatment, and we are all equally subject to the law. Naturally, this includes people who work for the state, and most especially those who work in the justice system, right? After all, if they aren't abiding by the rules, then why on earth should the rest of us do so? We can't have one group of citizens imposing laws on the rest of us, which they won't respect themselves, can we? That would be hypocrisy, duplicity, and double standards of the worst order, wouldn't it? There's nothing fair, democratic, or even lawful about one group breaking all the rules and oppressing another group, especially when we are paying their wages, right? In fact, whenever dishonest people visit unlawful acts on others, we usually describe them as criminals. Wearing an official uniform or a robe doesn't change this fact, and getting a pay packet from the state shouldn't be an automatic cloak of immunity. Come to think of it, wasn't this what the 1916 Rising was all about? The rejection of an unjust system where a rich and privileged elite oppressed and exploited the rest of us with impunity? According to the European Convention on Human Rights, governments simply can't treat their citizens this way anymore, because, to put it bluntly, it would be criminal for them to do so. So, what can we ordinary citizens do when registrars and judges break the law? Well, according to the Office of the Chief Justice, there is no facility at present via this office to complain about the conduct of a judge. According to the Office of President Michael D. Higgins, the President cannot interfere in judicial matters. And according to the Minister for Justice, Francis Fitzgerald, I have no role to play in this matter. Well, apart from the fact that we now know that Mrs. Fitzgerald was being very economical with the truth, which is otherwise known as lying, and that there appears to be an unspoken policy of immunity for state employees across the board, the other thing we also now know is that we can do something about this. All we need is the will and the courage to stand up to these abuses of power and position and hold each individual personally to account. There is a simple procedure enshrined in the law whereby any one of us can walk straight into a district court and ask the judge to issue a summons against any other person on the basis of their alleged criminal acts or behaviour. This includes misconduct in public office or any action which is designed to interfere with, obstruct or pervert the course of justice. And you can rest assured that this sort of thing is regularly happening on a routine basis, especially in our courts. In fact, in a disturbing irony, the most recent slew of unlawful and unconstitutional behaviours by over a dozen judges has been their combined attempts to prevent us from prosecuting Gardaí, county registrars and other authority figures for clear and undeniable criminal acts. The process used is called prosecution by common informer and dates back to 1851, yet remains embedded in our fundamental rights and is supported by a lengthy Supreme Court ruling as recently as July 2015. But for some strange reason, the whole Irish justice system seems intent on denying us our statutory right to prosecute state-affiliated criminals in our own names. In the past few weeks and months, for example, all sorts of trickery, evasiveness and downright law-breaking has been deployed by registrars, judges and state-sponsored solicitors to try to prevent us prosecuting their colleagues and subordinates. This has included judges abandoning their courts in haste, deploying Gardaí to block public access to the courts, concocting obstructive procedures, losing key paperwork, claiming unconstitutional rights, inventing new rules and basically point-blank refusing to do their jobs right. In taking these illicit actions, they too have exposed themselves to further charges of misconduct in public office and interfering in the administration of justice, and it is our firm intention that they too will be held properly to account, if not by our own compromised justice system, then at least in the ever-growing court of public opinion. And for more details on this, please see the full PDF report as profiled on the Integrity Ireland website. To put things in another perspective, what if your team turned up for the long-awaited cup final only to discover that the referee had decided in advance that your team was going to lose the game, and that he was willing to change any or all of the rules and even send all of your players off if necessary to achieve that unjust result? Well, you can be absolutely sure that that referee would not be out the following weekend, nor the weekend after that. Indeed, and speaking as a sports official myself, you can be absolutely sure that any official who failed to comply with the basic rules in this manner, or who showed clear bias and favouritism towards any party, would immediately and permanently lose his licence to referee. That, my friends, is called accountability. And if we don't have the will or the courage to hold these people properly to account, then maybe we deserve what we get. Because clearly, the so-called statutory authorities are not going to do anything about this appalling national scandal. And the mainstream Irish media is doing its level best to ignore the elephant in the room, even though that elephant is, metaphorically speaking, putting us all neck deep in elephant dung. The tools are there, the law is there, and the support is there. You don't need to put up with this anymore. Let these people know that they will be held fully to account under the law if they continue to betray our trust and abuse the privileged positions they hold. Please check out the Integrity Ireland website, the Facebook pages, and our newly published S.O.S guide for more information, because one by one, together, we can make a difference.